Before we begin, pause for just a second. If you want stories like this to keep finding you, then like and hit the subscribe button. And leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Now, turn the lights down, stay very still, and let the shadows take over. I've got to tell you about the worst night of my life. Honestly, I've never told anyone the whole thing. Not my parents, not my friends, not even a therapist. But it's been years and it still sticks with me. I was 17, just another Friday night. I was babysitting this little girl, Zoe Parker. She was 5, sweet, super curious, loved unicorns, peanut butter crackers, mismatched socks. Typical kid stuff. Her parents were heading to some charity dinner, said they'd be back around midnight. I figured, alright, easy money. No big deal. We had dinner, mac and cheese, juice all over the floor. She was giggling the whole time. We watched a little Bluey and by 8:30 I tucked her into bed. Pink room, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, unicorn lamp glowing softly. She had her giraffe totally out cold. I thought, cool, I've got this. So I go downstairs, flop on the couch in my hoodie, scrolling my phone, just chilling. House was quiet, normal. Too quiet, actually. And then, I hear it. A soft click from upstairs. My stomach sank. Maybe it's just a door? I told myself that. But then footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Right above me. My gut told me it wasn't nothing. I get up, head to Zoe's room to check on her. Door was open wider than I left it. She's asleep, hugging her giraffe. Nothing seems off. Then I notice it, the attic string. Hanging lower than usual, swaying. And suddenly I realize someone could be in the attic. Alone. With a 5-year-old. And then, the baby monitor crackles. Static first. Then this whisper. Zoe. I froze. I don't even know how I didn't scream. I ran upstairs, locked the door, grabbed my phone, hands shaking. I text my best friend. Someone's in the house. Not a joke. Her reply. Call 911. And then footsteps. Right outside Zoe's door. I grab her little desk chair and wedge it under the doorknob, praying it holds. The knob twists. Harder. Thud. Zoe whimpers. And then, silence. The dispatcher's voice in my ear, telling me the cops are 2 blocks away. And the footsteps retreat to the attic. I just crouched there, holding Zoe's hand, frozen. Then the front door slams. Police yelling. They searched the whole house. Nothing. No one. Not in the attic. Not anywhere. Just gone. But later, one of the officers comes back with a phone. Old flip phone. Wallpaper, it's Zoe. Taken from outside a window. And in the drafts, it says she's almost ready. The Parkers moved out a month later. I never babysat again. But even now, years later, sometimes I wake up and I hear it. Soft steps. A whisper of my name. And I still wonder if he was ever really gone. I was 21, broke and desperate for extra cash. College life wasn't cheap and babysitting gigs were the easiest way to make some money. That's when I got a last-minute call from Evan Caldwell. He said their usual sitter had canceled and they needed someone to watch his daughter, Lily, for the night. He sounded tense, nervous even, but I didn't think much of it. Kids get fussy, parents get stressed. That's normal. I drove to Woodridge, Illinois, a quiet suburb. The street leading to their house was eerily empty. Even for a suburban cul-de-sac, it felt hollow, like the air itself had been thinned out. When I arrived, the house looked clean enough, but empty. No family photos, no toys, bare walls. Evan greeted me quickly, glancing nervously at the upstairs hallway. Thanks for coming, he said, voice tight. Renee's upstairs getting Lily ready. She's quiet, easy to care for, nothing to worry about. When Lily appeared, I froze. She was 7, pale, with thin blonde hair and huge dark eyes that seemed too old for her face. She handed me a folded piece of paper, a drawing, a house with a black stick figure in the window. No face, just empty eyes and a stretched, white smile. Before I could react, Renee grabbed it, muttering something about Lily's weird drawings. Then they left. I was alone with Lily. She barely spoke. She just drew page after page, glancing toward the hallway like she expected someone, or something, to appear. At one point, she wandered upstairs to a small crawlspace door near the floor. She was knocking on it, whispering, "You have to say no. You can't say yes." I asked what she meant. She didn't answer. I just watched her retreat back downstairs. She kept drawing, always the same stick figure woman, always in the house. When bedtime came, I tucked her in. She whispered one thing before sleep. "She watches me sleep. Don't let her in." Then the knock started. Slow, deliberate, from upstairs. Not Lily's room, not the attic, the hallway. I froze. My chest felt heavy, my ears ringing. Something was there. I slowly crept upstairs. The hallway was empty, Lily asleep. The crawlspace door, however, was ajar with 3 fresh red smudges, like fingerprints. I backed away. Soft footsteps behind me. Lily standing halfway down the stairs, eyes half open. "Yes, yes, yes," she muttered. Her gaze fixed on me, unblinking. I grabbed her hand, wrapped her in a blanket, and called 911. We went outside. The crawlspace door swung open, revealing a pale, grinning face. Then it vanished. Police arrived within minutes. They searched the house thoroughly. No intruder, no forced entry, nothing. But in the crawlspace they found dozens of Lily's drawings. Each one showed the stick figure woman, long black hair, no eyes, bleeding mouth, and in every picture the house was burning. Evan and Renee never returned. Their phones were disconnected, and there was no record of them ever living there. The house was abandoned. Even weeks later, I couldn't shake it. The memory of that crawlspace, the drawings, Lily's blank eyes, they haunted me. And sometimes late at night, I still hear that whisper, "Don't let her in." I never believed in old house stories. You know, the kind of tales people tell to scare themselves during power outages or when the wind rattles a window. I thought they were just that, stories. That all changed the summer I stayed at my Uncle Marcus' cabin in northern Michigan. The cabin was tucked deep in the woods, the kind of place GPS almost forgot existed. No cell signal, no internet, just trees, a lake, and the smell of damp pine. Uncle Marcus was an odd man, quiet, gruff, but he promised it would be fun. Fishing, late-night bonfires, ghost stories. I was 23, thought I was too old for ghost stories, but I went along anyway. The first 2 nights were normal. I fished in the morning, cooked over the fire at night. The cabin had been in my family for decades. Creaky floorboards, a stone fireplace, and strange carvings in the beams. My uncle joked about them being protective runes. I laughed along, but even then, something about those carvings made the hair on my arms stand up. The 3rd night, things changed. I was reading in the cabin's tiny living room when I heard it, scratching. Soft, deliberate, coming from the hallway that led to the bedrooms. I froze. My uncle was asleep in the back room. The scratching stopped. I told myself it was an animal, maybe a raccoon or a squirrel that got in somehow. Then came the whispers. I could barely make them out, like someone muttering right at the edge of hearing. My name. "Alex," repeated over and over. I called out, "Who's there?" Nothing. Only silence, heavy and cold, pressing against my skin. Curiosity, or stupidity, got the better of me. I grabbed a flashlight and slowly walked down the hallway. Every step made the floorboards groan, echoing in the stillness. The whispering stopped as soon as I passed the threshold to the first bedroom. The room was empty. No one there, no sign of anything unusual. I turned to leave and froze. On the wall above the bed, scratched deep into the plaster, were letters, "Don't sleep." My stomach churned. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and checked the other rooms. Nothing. Every door, every corner, every closet, empty. But the whispers had returned, louder now, closer. I couldn't find the source, but I could feel it, like someone was standing right behind me, breathing on my neck. I spun around. Nothing. The next morning, I tried to convince myself it had been a nightmare. Uncle Marcus laughed when I mentioned it. "Old houses play tricks on you," he said. "Don't read too much into it." I nodded, but the unease stayed. That night, the whispers returned, but this time they weren't coming from the walls. They were coming from the fireplace. My uncle had left it unlit, cold, dark. I swear I saw a shadow move inside the hearth. Then the voice, whispering directly in my ear, "You're next." I bolted outside, heart hammering. The woods were silent, unnaturally silent, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. I stayed outside for hours, staring at the cabin, watching for movement, listening for that whisper again. But when morning came, everything seemed normal. The sun, the lake, the birds, it was all perfectly mundane. Determined not to be scared, I went back inside. That's when I noticed the carvings. Not the ones my uncle called runes, the new ones. Scratches all over the beams, fresh, spelling words I couldn't read but felt wrong, violent. The air inside the cabin turned thick, heavy, and I started to cough like something in the room was choking me. I tried to leave, but the front door wouldn't budge. No matter how hard I pushed, it stayed shut like the cabin itself was holding me in. Panic set in. I ran to the windows. They were all locked, sealed tight, no chance of escape. I spent that night pacing, listening, flashlight shaking in my hands. The whispers came again, insistent, angry now, filling the entire cabin. Sleep? Sleep. When dawn finally broke, the air felt lighter. The doors opened easily. I didn't wait. I grabbed my bag, left the cabin, and didn't look back. I drove 3 hours straight to the nearest town. Weeks later, I learned from Uncle Marcus that the cabin had a history. People had died there, men, women, children, over the decades. Some from accidents, some missing, some unexplainable. And the carvings? Rumors said they were warnings. Warnings no one ever heeded. I've never gone back. I don't plan to. But sometimes in the dead of night, when the wind rattles my window, I hear the whispers. My name. Alex, always soft, always close. And for a moment, I can almost feel that cabin around me, the darkness pressing in. I know one thing for sure. If I ever hear that voice again, I won't hesitate. I'll run. Because I learned the hard way, some stories aren't meant to be heard, they're meant to be survived. I didn't mean to break the rules. Honestly, I didn't even know there were rules. But some things you only learn the hard way. It started the summer I worked at the old Milltown amusement park. The park had been abandoned for years, shuttered after a series of strange accidents. Kids had gone missing, rides had collapsed. Everyone in town whispered about it, but I thought it was just small-town superstition. A perfect place to earn some quick cash as a night security guard. The job was simple. I had to patrol the perimeter, check the rides, make sure no vandals got in. They didn't even bother training me on the inside of the park, said it was structurally unsafe. Perfect. Empty rides, rusted tracks, peeling paint. I felt like I'd stepped into a time capsule. The first few nights were boring. Too quiet. I'd sit in the guard shack, scroll through my phone, occasionally hear the wind rattle the Ferris wheel. The park was a ghost, but harmless, or so I thought. Then came the first rule. I was walking past the old carousel when I heard it, a faint melody like a music box. My heart skipped a beat. The carousel hadn't worked in decades. I froze, and then I saw them. Small hands, pale, grasping the poles of the horses. Children, but wrong. Their eyes were dark, hollow, and they didn't blink. I stumbled back and the music stopped. The air grew heavy. That's when a voice, soft and distant, whispered, "Don't ride." I laughed nervously. Of course I laughed. Kids messing around. Probably old animatronics moving in the wind. But the voice wasn't part of the wind. It was human, deliberate. Curiosity, or stupidity, made me step closer. The carousel started slowly, creaking, turning despite the fact that no electricity ran through it. The horses moved like they were alive, their wooden eyes glinting in the moonlight. And the children, still there staring, held out their hands to me. The whisper came again louder, "Ride, or stay forever." I froze. Something about that warning sank deep into my chest. The words weren't just a warning. They were a choice. And I could feel it. If I touched one of those horses, I wouldn't leave. I ran. Fast, heart pounding through the overgrown paths of the park. The rides groaned behind me like metal bones stretching. When I reached the exit gate, I dared a glance back. The carousel had stopped. The children were gone. The music was gone. The next night I was back. I couldn't help it. Something drew me to the carousel, a mix of fear and disbelief. This time I noticed the signs. Painted, etched, scratched into the ground and poles. Do not call them. Do not follow. Do not ride. I laughed nervously. Rules? For a ghost? I shook my head, telling myself it was my imagination. Then I heard the whispers again. Closer. They weren't just warning me, they were guiding me. Softly, insistently, "Alex, ride." I wanted to run, but my legs didn't move. Something made me step forward, my hand hovering over the carved horse. The carousel began to turn, slowly, creaking in the still night. And then I saw them behind the ride in the shadows. Children, dozens just standing, staring, waiting. Hollow eyes, grinning mouths, silent laughter. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. And then the whispers became screams. Not from the children, but from inside my head. Ride. 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 I lunged forward, grabbed the nearest horse, and it moved under me like it was alive. Faster and faster. The night became a blur. I heard metal clanging, the wind screaming, and behind me laughter that wasn't happy. I screamed. The carousel spun me in circles, dizziness overwhelming, and then silence. I woke up in the guard shack. Dawn was breaking. The carousel was still. Empty. I was alone. Heart racing, sweat soaking my shirt. No one had touched me. Nothing had happened. It was just a ride, right? I tried to ignore it, but the whispers didn't stop. They followed me home. I'd be walking down the street, doing simple things, and I'd hear the soft, insistent voice. Ride again? Weeks passed. I became obsessed. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I kept seeing shadows in corners, shapes that didn't belong. My friends noticed. They asked me what was wrong. I lied. Then one night I returned. Alone. No guards, no shift. Just me and the carousel. I couldn't resist. The ride started on its own. The children appeared again, grinning, their hands outstretched. I tried to stop, but my body moved before my mind. I climbed onto the horse. The carousel spun faster than ever, wind ripping through my clothes, my hair screaming in my ears. And then I heard it, not the whispers, not the children. Something deep, terrifying, ancient. A voice behind the ride, cold and low. You broke the rules. Now you belong. The next thing I remember, I woke up at home. My alarm clock was buzzing. The park was gone from my thoughts, my memory fuzzy. Days passed. Life returned to normal. But I knew it wasn't over. Because sometimes when I'm walking alone at night, I hear it. Faint, behind me, the soft creak of wooden horses, the music box melody. And a whisper just for me. Ride again? I don't know how long I have. I don't know if anyone can stop it. The rules? I didn't follow them. And now I'm part of the game. The carousel waits. The children wait. And one day it will come for me again. And next time, I might not wake up. I never believed in the things you hear about the woods at night. Not really. Not until that night. Not until the screaming started. My name's Ryan, and I used to go camping every summer with my friends. Just the usual. Tents, firewood, marshmallows. This time, we picked a spot near Larchwood Forest. Not marked on most maps. Locals avoided it, said it was cursed, that people went in and didn't come back. Of course we laughed. We're young. We're invincible. We arrived just before sunset. Thick trees surrounded us, the kind that block out most of the fading light. My friends joked about the old legends, voices in the forest, lights that moved on their own, shadowy figures. I made fun of them. I always do. That night I heard it first. A scream. Far away, soft, distant. My friends heard nothing. I convinced myself it was an animal or the wind carrying sound weirdly through the trees. We built the fire. It laughed. When it got too dark, we went to our tents. I stayed outside a little longer, watching the shadows stretch, listening to the quiet. That's when I saw her. A girl, maybe 12, standing at the edge of the clearing. Pale skin, long black hair covering her face. She didn't move, didn't speak. Just watched. "Hey," I called. "Are you lost?" She didn't answer. Didn't blink. Just stood there, silent. Then she lifted a hand, slow, deliberate, pointing toward the forest. My gut twisted. I told myself to leave her. She was probably a hallucination. A trick of the firelight. I went back to my tent. My friends were asleep. But I couldn't stop thinking about her. The feeling of being watched. The way the trees seemed to close in. And then I heard it again. A scream, closer this time, almost human, almost my name. I grabbed my flashlight and went after her. The forest swallowed me whole. Branches clawed at my face, roots tripped me. I called out, "Hey, wait." But the girl was gone. Only a small trail of footprints led deeper into the trees. Wet, dark, like the soil itself was swallowing them. That's when I realized something was wrong. The woods weren't natural. The trees leaned, twisted, blocking paths I swore I'd walked before. Shadows moved independently of the firelight. And then I heard them, whispers coming from everywhere and nowhere. "Ryan." I froze. My heart pounded in my ears. I told myself it was my imagination. Then the whispers became voices. Hundreds of them, overlapping, urgent, pleading. "Come to us. You shouldn't be here. Don't follow her." The girl reappeared. Still pale, still silent, just standing there, waiting. Against every instinct, I stepped forward. Something drew me. Something that wasn't fear, wasn't curiosity. Something hungry. I reached her. And the ground beneath me changed. The forest floor seemed to liquefy, roots writhing like snakes, pulling me down. The girl lifted her head. Her eyes, black, empty voids, locked on me. And then the screaming started, everywhere, behind me, inside me, in my skull. I ran. Branches tore at me, roots snagged my legs. The voices chased me, whispering secrets I didn't understand. I stumbled into a clearing, and froze. The trees formed a circle. Inside, dozens of children, pale and silent, stared at me. Some crouched, some hung from branches like decorations. And at the center, a figure, tall, cloaked, faceless. Arms raised. The whispers stopped. Silence. And then it spoke. Not a voice. A thought. Inside my head. "You've seen too much. You can leave if you choose." I thought about running. About screaming. About turning back. But the figure raised its hands and the children moved, gliding through the air, blocking every path. Every exit vanished. The girl I'd followed stepped forward. Extended her hand. My mind screamed, "Don't touch her." But my body moved before I could stop it. I took her hand. Everything changed. The forest twisted, the children's faces blurred. I felt my feet leave the ground itself folding away. I was falling, spinning through darkness that smelled of earth and decay. I woke up on the edge of the forest at dawn. My friends were gone. Their tents were collapsed. No footprints, no signs of struggle. Only a small toy, a blackened, twisted doll, lay in the dirt. I ran. I didn't stop until I reached my car. Locked the doors. Drove straight home. I tried to forget. Tried to sleep. But every night I hear her voice, soft and insistent, whispering through my window. "Come back." Sometimes I see shadows out of the corner of my eye. Children moving in unnatural ways. Watching. Waiting. I don't go near the forest anymore. But the pull is there always. And I know one day if I don't go back, they'll come for me. I broke the unspoken rules. I followed her. And now, I'm marked. Every night, I lie awake thinking about that circle of children. About the faceless figure. About the forest that doesn't exist on any map. And I know the next time I close my eyes, I might hear the footsteps coming through my room, soft, deliberate, getting closer, calling my name. Ryan. I always liked exploring abandoned places. There's a thrill in the quiet, a feeling that you're stepping into a world that time forgot. My friends called me reckless. I called it curiosity. My name's Marcus. I was 21 when it happened. Me and a couple of buddies, Tyler and Sam, decided to check out an old asylum on the outskirts of Akron. Hollow windows, rusted gates, peeling paint. Classic horror vibe. Perfect for a late-night adventure. We got there around 11 p.m. The moon was high, casting silver streaks across the broken pavement. Tyler had a flashlight, Sam had his phone, and I had a camera to document our adventure. The front gate was chained, but Tyler managed to lift it enough to squeeze through. Adrenaline pumped. The air smelled like mold and rust. Every step we took echoed through the empty hallways. At first, it was just the usual stuff. Broken furniture, graffiti, shattered glass. Nothing to make you feel like someone, or something, was watching. Then we reached the first patient wing. Rows of tiny rooms, metal beds stripped bare, doors hanging on hinges. And that's when I noticed it, a faint scratching sound. Soft, deliberate like nails on concrete. I froze. Sam laughed nervously. Probably rats, man. Relax. I didn't relax. The sound repeated, closer now. Not random. A pattern. 3 scratches, pause, 2 scratches. We followed the sound to a stairwell. The steps led down to the basement. Rusted metal doors, warning signs, everything locked tight, except one. A faint light glowed from underneath. I hesitated. Tyler shoved the door open. The smell hit us first. Rot, decay, something sweet underneath like sugar and blood. I gagged. The basement wasn't empty. Rows of cages, small ones at first, then larger, all stacked along the walls. The scratching came from the far corner. A figure crouched there. Thin, pale, with hair long and wet, covering its face. It looked human, but wrong. Its movements were jerky, unnatural, like it was broken. It froze when it saw us. Then it whispered, "Leave now." I felt my stomach drop. Sam took a step back. Tyler laughed, trying to act brave. "Okay, yeah. Let's go." I didn't move. Something inside me, stubborn curiosity or maybe sheer stupidity, made me take a step closer. The figure raised its head. Eyes black, void-like, reflecting the flashlight beams. It tilted its head in a mockery of a human gesture. Then it smiled. Teeth jagged, sharp, uneven. "They're coming?" Before I could react, the doors behind us slammed shut. Tyler screamed. Sam tried to pull them open, but they wouldn't budge. The figure moved toward us, crawling like a spider, faster than any human should. I grabbed the flashlight and shined it in its face. It hissed, a wet, guttural sound. My hand shook. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. But my legs felt frozen. Then came the whispers. Hundreds of voices all around us, overlapping, repeating a single word. "Stay, forever." The figure lunged. I ducked. The flashlight fell. Tyler and Sam shouted, chaos everywhere. I scrambled toward another exit, but the basement seemed to stretch, corridors twisting impossibly, walls shifting. And then I saw it, dozens of figures emerging from the shadows. Faces pale, eyes black, crawling, whispering. They didn't walk. They slithered, slid, moved like smoke through cracks. I ran. Or at least I tried to. My feet barely touched the floor. Every turn I took led me back to the same room. The figures closed in, whispering my name, calling to me. I stumbled into a small cage, slammed the door behind me. The metal bars dug into my hands. I was trapped, heart hammering, breath ragged. The figure in the corner approached, slow, deliberate. Its voice now louder, more commanding. You shouldn't be here. You're ours now. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. My camera had fallen beside me. Through the lens, I saw them differently, distorted, warped, like looking through water. The whispers became shouts, screams of past victims echoing in my skull. I don't know how long I was there. Minutes? Hours? Could have been days. Time didn't exist in that basement. Only the crawling, whispering, watching. Then, as suddenly as it began, silence. The cage door swung open. No one was there. The hallway led to a stairwell. I ran up, out into the night. The asylum loomed behind me, silent. Empty. Normal. Tyler and Sam were gone. The gate was open. No sign of them. No evidence they'd been there. I called the police. Reported it. They searched. Nothing. No cages, no basement, no figures. Just an abandoned building, decaying, harmless. I never went back. I never told anyone the full story. People say I was lucky. I say I escaped by chance. And sometimes when I'm alone at night, I swear I can hear whispers outside my window, scratching at the walls, calling my name. I still see them in my dreams. Pale faces, black eyes, crawling toward me, whispering, "You belong to us." And every time I close my eyes, I know they're waiting for the next time I wander too far, too curious, too reckless. I've always thought that some things are better left alone. But curiosity has a way of chaining itself to your gut, tugging you toward trouble whether you like it or not. My name's Eli, and this is the story of the night I learned just how wrong haunted really can be. I was 23 and a friend tipped me off about an old cabin deep in the Hocking Hills woods. Supposedly, no one had lived there in decades. Locals whispered about it like it was alive, that people who stayed too long inside never returned the same, if they returned at all. I don't believe in ghosts. I never have. But something about the description pulled me in. Broken windows, moss-covered walls, the scent of rot still lingering in the air. Perfect for a night of exploration and a little danger. I left around 10 p.m., armed with a flashlight, a backpack with essentials, and my camera. My roommate, Chris, called me crazy. "Just don't disappear," he said. I laughed, told him I'd be fine. The forest was alive with sounds, owls, rustling leaves, the distant call of coyotes. I followed the narrow path, the moon barely lighting the way. By the time I saw the cabin, it was just as the stories described. Leaning, weathered wood, a door barely hanging from one hinge. I stepped inside. The floorboards groaned under my weight. Dust motes floated in the flashlight beam. There was a faint smell of smoke and wet wood, like someone had just left. Which made no sense. The cabin had been abandoned for decades. I started filming, narrating like a dumb YouTube host. "All right, we're inside. Nothing scary yet. Just a creepy old cabin." I chuckled at myself, but the laughter died when I noticed the walls. They weren't walls exactly. More like thick, rough-hewn planks, but scratched. Hundreds of deep gouges, zigzagging across the wood. Some looked old, weathered. Some looked fresh, as if something had tried to claw its way out, or in. I kept walking. The main room opened into a smaller bedroom. And that's when I saw it, a chair in the center facing the corner. Nothing unusual except the chair wasn't empty. Sitting there, a figure. Tall, thin, hunched forward. Face hidden under a hood. Pale hands rested on its knees. I froze. My voice caught. "Hello." It didn't move. Didn't respond. Just sat there. The air grew thick, heavy. My flashlight flickered. I blinked. When I opened my eyes, it was closer, only a few feet away. Who are you? I managed to whisper. The figure leaned forward slightly. The hood fell back, revealing a face so wrong it burned into my mind. Skin gray and cracked like dried mud. Eyes hollow. Teeth too many, too sharp, gnawing at each other. It smiled. Then it spoke. Not with words, but in my head. A voice like nails on chalkboard, scratching into my skull. You shouldn't be here, Eli. Leave. I stumbled back, tripping over a floorboard. My camera clattered to the ground. My flashlight spun, catching another figure behind me, then another, and another. They weren't outside the room. They weren't in the shadows. They were everywhere, multiplying in the corner of my eye, moving like smoke. I ran for the door. It slammed shut. Art. I shook it, screamed, pounded, but it wouldn't budge. The figures advanced, whispering my name, calling me forward, circling closer and closer. Then I noticed the floor. Marks. Shapes. Symbols carved deep, bleeding dark red into the wood. Shapes I didn't understand. Shapes that pulsed. Something about them made my skin crawl like a living thing. One figure reached for me. I tried to dodge, but my foot caught on a plank. I fell, hitting my head. Pain exploded in my skull. When I came to, I was on my knees, flashlight shaking, and they were gone. Silent. Too silent. I crawled to the back window, trying to pry it open. Something moved outside the glass, just a shadow flickering in the moonlight. Not human. Not animal. I couldn't see a shape, just movement. And then the whisper, soft, close, directly into my ear. You came here, now you belong to us. I bolted. Full sprint through the woods, tripping, bleeding, ignoring the cuts and scratches. Branches tore at my clothes, hands, face. I didn't look back. I didn't stop. By the time I reached the road, gasping, heart hammering, the cabin was gone. Gone. Not burned, not collapsed, not hidden. Gone. As if it had never been there at all. I got back to Chris's apartment at dawn, shaking, covered in dirt and blood. I tried to tell him, but words failed me. All I could do was show him the footage from the camera. The playback, it wasn't right. The cabin appeared on camera, yes, but twisted. The walls bent in impossible ways. The figures moved in ways they shouldn't. And one thing I noticed, a detail I didn't see at the time, a shadow in the corner with eyes staring directly at the lens, smiling. The footage glitched, then went completely black. I never went back to the woods. I never spoke of it to anyone beyond Chris. And I stopped filming abandoned places. The curiosity that had once driven me into the night, it died that night. But sometimes, late at night, when the wind howls just right, I hear whispers in my apartment. Soft, distant, calling my name. Eli. Come back, we're waiting. I still don't know what I saw that night. I don't know if it was ghosts, demons, or something else entirely. But I know this, I saw it and it saw me. And I know that somewhere out there, in the woods, the cabin waits. Waiting for the next curious soul. Waiting for the next person foolish enough to enter. And I know in my gut it's still calling me.